everyone. Welcome to the Overseas Opportunities panel. And today we have a very distinguished panelist over here. And as the start, we're going to let them to introduce themselves first. And while our moderator will join us in a minute. Hi, Anna, why don't you start yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Anna from the New York office of the Hong Kong Council. We focus on matching cross-border business opportunities through Hong Kong.
And I'm Douglas Lee, and thank you very much for inviting me today. And I'm happy to be part of this program. I work with Invest Hong Kong. I'm the head of investment promotion based here in New York, and we're the investment promotion agency of the Hong Kong government.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Mattia from Luxembourg for Finance, which is the agency for the development and promotion of the financial services industry in Luxembourg. I work in business development with a focus on North America.
Hello, everyone. And Doran is my name. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Skuro. Skuro is an AI and analytics company that, even though we're just 50 people, has internationalized at the very early stage. Hence my invitation to this panel. It is a privilege to be here.
Everyone, we're pleased to have all you international business developers to join us today. In the past couple of days, we've been discussing for fintech evolution, primarily for the industry trend and focusing on US market. It's so great to have you to join our international panel to explore the overseas opportunities with our audience. And Doug, Anna, and Meitia, you're all experienced international business developers introducing multinational companies, especially fintech and financial service companies, to Hong Kong as the gateway to Asia and Luxembourg as the gateway to Europe. We'd like to learn from you about what kind of opportunities you see from your market, from what you're doing. So shall we start with Anna?
Sure, Mev, thanks for letting me to start first. So needless to say, I come from Hong Kong, so I will speak on Hong Kong. For Hong Kong, definitely we are the international, well-known as the international financial center. So for fintech companies, you naturally have the advantage to be close to source of funds and also your source of clients in Hong Kong, as most of the major international banks, financial institutions, insurance company, asset managers stay in Hong Kong. And not just that, the Hong Kong, in fact, we are also very tech savvy, as you all know already. We are very acceptive to e-commerce. And in fact, like since COVID, digital payment has become even more popular in Hong Kong. Just to quote a recent example, the Hong Kong government is giving out 5,000 Hong Kong dollars to each Hong Kong resident. And it is not in form of cash or in form of a check payment, but it is in form of digital payment inject directly to the to residents' digital wallet. It could be WeChat account or Alipay or the local Octopus card. So this is an example of how popular e-commerce and the digital payment is in Hong Kong. Besides that, I just quote just one more point. Hong Kong is not just a market in itself. We always tell people that Hong Kong is a springboard to the Asia market, as Mel has also mentioned. So one recent development is the Greater Bay Area. Maybe some of you have heard of it already. It is a fast-growing economic in southern China that includes Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 cities of Guangdong province that covers Shenzhen and Guangzhou. It is important because it is a 15 trillion market with a population of 70 million. a growing middle class. So it presents lots of opportunities for financial inclusion and fintech development such as blockchain, AI, and big data. As we see, the region will see accelerated flow of capitals, goods, and people, which is regional coordination and cooperation across business sector. So this is an overview of what I see opportunities for fintech companies in Hong Kong.
Thank you so much, Anna. And Doug, as someone with both private sector and public sector experience, as a senior business banking leader, you used to set up operation in Hong Kong. And we would love to hear from you what you see the opportunities in Hong Kong and Asian market.
Well, thank you. So just to follow on with Anna's overview, let me start off with a challenge. In Hong Kong, if you're a traditional bank, you're actually facing some challenges from the virtual banks. But on the other hand, the virtual bank has opportunities. So there were 8 virtual banks that were licensed for the first time in Hong Kong in 2019. And they all started operations after COVID hit. So that was last year. And they have all kinds of shareholders, banks, insurance companies, corporates, and fintechs. By the end of last year, their combined deposits were about $2 billion US. And by the year 2025, virtual banks could actually hold 4% of total deposits in Hong Kong, serving almost 2 million customers, which would be about 25% of Hong Kong's population. Now, on the other hand, COVID has been a catalyst for the traditional banks to accelerate their digital transformation. So there is a narrowing of the gap between the traditional and the virtual banks. I'd also like to add that there are now 4 virtual insurance companies in Hong Kong, and one of them is backed by a Canadian insurance company, and there's another one backed by an insurance company coming out of the UK. So these are, here again, depending on who you are, this could be a challenge, this could be an opportunity. Also, I'd add on that about 67% of Hong Kong's consumers, they use fintech-powered services. So that's good news we've got about 600 fintech companies in Hong Kong, and about 44% of them are founded by founders coming from overseas, most of those Americans. So here again, that's an opportunity for American entrepreneurs. Hong Kong does have a faster payment system. And so, it does allow payments to be made easily by mobile phone or email address, with funds becoming available almost immediately, and operates 24/7 and supports payments in Hong Kong dollars and the Chinese currency. Also, since this conference is talking about, e-commerce and also digital payments, I would mention that about a quarter of all e-commerce payments in Hong Kong are completed by digital wallets, making it the second most preferred payment method in Hong Kong for e-commerce. But by this year, digital wallets are likely to outperform all other e-commerce payment methods in Hong Kong. And the most popular digital wallets are PayPal and currently Alipay as well. So with compound annual growth in the use of digital wallets, that's another opportunity. So also on the digital front, our central bank has facilitated the creation of what we call the E-Trade Connect, which is a blockchain-based trade finance platform. So trade documents are digitized and stored on the platform, transmission and distribution. And you've got the buyers, the sellers, the import banks, and the export banks all there as well. So banks like HSBC and Standard Chartered Bank are already involved with that initiative. And then lastly, I would just say that for those of you who don't know, China, not Hong Kong, has foreign exchange controls, but they are creating channels for money to come out of China. So there's already a Stock Connect, there's a Bond Connect, and the latest one will be the Wealth Management Connect, which is going to allow citizens of the 9 cities in southern China, that Greater Bay Area that Anna talked about, and it'll allow them to buy into investment products being sold by Hong Kong. So as a start, the total amount allowed into Hong Kong will be about 46.5 billion US dollars. And so I would say that these connects are also opportunities for fintech and traditional financial service firms.
It's exciting to learn from you now from one of the most important financial service center in Asia. And let's shift our focus to Europe. And maybe you're not only DOC's equivalent in Europe with Luxembourg, but one of your mandate is also to connect with global financial centers to promote financial service and fintech companies. What kind of opportunities you see in your market?
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. With pleasure to be here. So it's certainly an exciting time for payments despite COVID. Europe has achieved 28% growth this year, reaching $1.17 trillion in digital payments transaction value. And by 2025, the European digital payments market is expected to reach a total transaction value of $2 trillion. So it's, and if you take European e-commerce alone, revenue in verticals which are less affected by the pandemic, for instance, if you exclude restaurants, traveling, entertainment, experienced over 20% increase in 2020 last year compared to pre-pandemic time. So the future looks promising. And the interesting thing about Europe, certainly comparison to the rest of the world, of course, is that there is free movement of goods, capital, services, people throughout a market of 450 million customers. So from a payment perspective, this is not like the US, for instance, where you need multiple licenses to cover various states, or Hong Kong, for instance, where you have you have to apply for different licenses if you want to come over and cover Southeast Asia, for instance. In Europe, if you're regulating in one particular jurisdiction, for instance, Luxembourg, you are able to passport or provide your services throughout the rest of the European Union and tap into the European single market. Interestingly, though, if we look at the customer behavior, there are still fundamental differences in the payment habits of Europeans. But it is not that is actually an opportunity, because there is greater room for growth for a variety of payments players. And precisely because of this fragmentation in customer behavior, the European legislator has continued to work towards the unification of the market, perfecting the so-called single euro payments area with the recent introduction of strong customer authentication. And the latest with the Payment Services Directive 2 also promotes and stimulates the new open banking services in the European bloc. And despite the fragmented payments landscape, we can help but notice this ongoing long-term move away from cash-based services, which has been heightened by COVID, because COVID-19 promoted the shift from card payments that passed to contactless digital wallets, both in store and online. We're also seeing a rise in instant payments supported by the European Central Bank. Account-to-account digital payments are slowly replacing card payments in the Nordic region, for instance, which is the most advanced payments market, we can say. Bank branch numbers have fallen away around 6%. And in the most developed markets in Europe, such as France, the Netherlands, the Nordics, 2/3 of banking customers are now engaged in online banking, either via internet or mobile apps. So this massive growth rate seen in instant account-to-account and mobile wallet payments show us that the next wave of development in digital payments in Europe is underway. And what is fantastic about Europe, I think, is that there are excellent players wherever you go, operating different payment segments. And you have this great momentum towards unification in digital payments, which is also greatly supported by European regulation and the European Central Bank. And even if you don't look at fintech specifically, but the corporate payments in the business-to-business payments, you can see that the traditional banks, incumbents, are doing also a pretty good job in Europe to facilitate payments and make them instantaneous for large amounts and for cross-border related transactions. So that's really, really encouraging, I think.
Now you are muted.
Yeah, you're muted. Sorry.
It's exciting to hear from your encouraging news, Mattia. And after hearing from our service provider from Europe and Asia, Dorian, I would like to turn to you as a successful serial entrepreneur. You've done everything digital in the past 2 decades, from building the visionary product to building the leading search platform in Switzerland and as one of the top 100 digital shapers. When you're facing all these opportunities and challenges, how do you review your business vision and think about your international expansion, and how do you seize these opportunities?
Thank you, Miao, and it was interesting to listen to my colleagues prior, how they see the opportunities in that space. Maybe for the audience, just 2 words what we do to give a bit of context, as we're not straight into payments, we have to do with payments in some of our customer situations. What we do is we provide an AI platform that allows you to extract insights of massive streams of data, of particularly so-called unstructured data sets, as an example, textual data sets, and apply those to insights that have a direct top-line impact, as an example, finding opportunities in the marketplace for asset management companies, for institutional, commercial, corporate banking clients of ours, and at the same time deploying that same technology in the payment sector, as an example, to reconciliation, and as well as to, as an example, problem resolution, as in a ticket payment didn't go through, say in a commercial transaction, and then obviously time matters to resolve it as fast, and most of those errors didn't happen the first time. Most of those have a pattern in itself. Once you're able to recognize that pattern, you're able to resolve such a issue much faster. So that's what we do. And why does a company of our size, 50 people actually at this stage, internationalize at this early stage? We have an office in New York, we have an office in London, in Munich, in Singapore, and consider now to go to Hong Kong. There is a simple reason. It's the opportunity that's out there. In many of those jurisdictions we just heard, there is a massive change process on the way of changing, as an example, entire payment stacks from how the business has been done in, say, the last 40 years, sort of the first wave of the IT introduction in the first place, and the digitization, to now a more modern layout. And this provides enormous opportunities to rethink the value generation in many of those businesses. Now, for someone like us who supports such a development, who enables businesses to do more with their own data sets, but in every occasion with data sets that are kind of like their most cherished assets, you don't share easily just because some cloud vendor shows up on your door all your transaction data, or you don't kind of like easily just because some new vendor shows up on your door share your entire customer database for some analytics. All of this needs trust, and trust is, we learned that over the past 12 months, 15 months, also established just in an online forum like this one. But at the end of the day, when it then comes down to implement such solution, trust is also a question of complying with local regulations, of effectively being a good local corporate citizen. And that actually pushed us. So these 2 elements, the massive opportunity out there where customers came to us from all those locations, we have the privilege to work in all those locations with customers, and then also our approach to this, given that we always deal with the most cherished data, that is the most valuable of all our customer organizations, us wanting to be a good local corporate citizen drove us to, at a very early stage, go after that opportunity and settle locally in those jurisdictions. And even that, as a small scale company, that is not always easy. I must, looking back today, out of 4 or 5 years of internationalization, I'm very happy that we did that, because the opportunity outside, as an example, obviously a small home market like ours in Switzerland, is simply so much greater and so much bigger that it pays off at the very early stage to take that step and go to foreign markets. So for us, we rely on organizations like the ones present here today to help us set up locally. In the combination, I think it's a very winning proposition in that massive change, that this digitization to zero, which we undergo at the moment. Back to you, Miao.
Thanks, Darren. it's so exciting to learn you not only develop a strong business in your home turf, but fortunate to have trusted advisor to handhold you to enter foreign market to expand your business. Let's hear from Anna and Doug. From your experience, how do you support business owners like Dorian who's entering your market? Can you share some case examples with us to elaborate as well?
Sure, Mel. First of all, I think we are all aware that despite all the opportunities we just mentioned in Europe or in Asia, the biggest obstacle for us all is that how can we get to the market if we can't travel right now. So this is a immediate obstacle that we all see. So in fact, like for Douglas and I, like Invest Hong Kong and HKTVC, first of all, we have overseas, we have local office in different overseas market, and we work very closely together to assist companies that we come across. For example, I would suggest like for small like tech companies or like smaller startup companies, if you can't travel to Hong Kong or Europe right now, there are lots of digital platforms, and besides TDC and Invest Hong Kong. For example, TDC, we focus on delivering business opportunities through our events and our conferences and our trade exhibitions, and all of them are now going hybrid right now. And we have been investing a lot of innovations to make all these digital platforms more efficient in matching companies. So I think I would really suggest that, for example, you can use our online conferences. For example, we have a deal flow session, which is a business matching session happened during the Asian Financial Forum. It has been running very successfully in previous year. And since last year, we start to run the deal flow session digitally, which has been quite successful as well, with we reaching even more investors and project owners from different geographical locations. I think these kind of platforms and digital pitching or matching sessions are one of the easiest ways for startup company to test out a market and to meet partners from Hong Kong or from China before they make a decision to travel all the way to a foreign country. Yeah.
Anna, this new initiative not only bridge the pandemic restriction, but also position you for future growth for cross-border platform. And Doug, I know you have more ideas. Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I was just, as you say, we have to keep our eye on the ball. Hopefully this will all pass away. And so in the meantime, what we've been doing is we've been making greater use of digital channels to support our clients and prospects. We've been building, for example, a library of digital content on different industries and topics. We've been also coming out by doing virtual investment promotion missions from Hong Kong to attract foreign direct investment too. And that's worked out fairly well given the circumstances. We've been also acting as a bridge for information with regulators on new digital products and services such as crypto exchanges. So those things are coming into fashion now. And then internally, we now actually have a chief digital liaison. We felt that was important, and we reorganized ourselves knowing that the lines between industry sectors are being blurred by the technology and market forces. But here again, we hope that this is just sort of a blip and things will go away. So our traditional support services continue. So we still continue to help companies with company registration, with licensing, provide advice on expansion strategies, provide market information. And we do introduce companies to service providers and potential partners. We have gone online with our what we call the Global Fast Track Program, which is a way for fintech companies to do one-on-one meetings do pitch competitions and consultations with more than 80 government regulators, banks and corporations and investors in Hong Kong. So that continues to be going on despite the COVID-19. We continue to have our government funding programs for all phases of a fintech company's development, from R&D all the way up to market expansion. For example, we still have it's a Hong Kong dollar 2 billion fund, Innovation Technology Venture Fund for emerging companies. And then we still work with our government partners that provide homes for fintech companies and also funding too. Cyberport, Hong Kong Science Park, both of them have their own incubation and acceleration programs, and they also have their venture capital funds. So, these things can be done remotely, but also they can be done in person. So I think that we're pretty much geared up for, going forward, no matter what the circumstances look like.
Yeah, Doug, lovely to see you and Anna are well positioned for the future, not only to serve fintech companies, but your own practice are also getting more and more digitalized and modernized. Meitia, as the counterpart in Europe, how are you doing there?
Thank you, Miao. Well, Luxembourg for Finance is a promotional and development agency for the financial industry in Luxembourg. So if you look at the promotional side of things, before COVID, we used to organize physical events abroad, travel extensively to meet financial institutions abroad to showcase Luxembourg financial services toolbox. Now, ever since the pandemic kicked in, we went fully digital, which means we have digitalized our promotional activities. We launched also new digital event series focusing on specific fields, including payments or geographies, which has led to very, very positive results because we have realized that we can also target larger audience for promotional purposes with a new digital platform. When it comes to support payment and e-commerce, global payments and e-commerce who wants to tap the European single market, wants to set up operations in Luxembourg, we mainly help them making sure that they have the right support from the financial ecosystem. For instance, we help them with licensing, we help them with the necessary market intelligence, we put them in contact with lawyers or the consultants, depending what are their needs. And we also provide guidance about what is necessary when you actually want to set up and you're looking to set up in Europe. So I think for Luxembourg, it is very important that payment players are very clear about the activities that they want to provide, as to the European license, of course, that they are looking to obtain, so that you can start providing your services within as soon as possible. And for Luxembourg, it's really the substance also of the people that are expected to be put in place. We need to make sure that the central administration of the entity is in Luxembourg. So that means the appropriate staff at different levels and different kinds of expertise, because obviously when it comes to payments and e-commerce, the expertise is slightly different, the expertise required as compared to just other financial companies. And we have to make sure that the business plan is in place and is sufficiently solid as well, if you like, for the regulator to move forward. And also that is very important because sometimes the financial capacity to assist an entity in the startup phase, it's important. It must be addressed for instance, in the fintech payment sector. There are entities that are in the startup phase, so there is more finance required, more funds. And entities looking for licenses, financial requirements need to be respected as well. And we need to make sure that the group as a whole is in a position to financially support the company for its future operations in Europe. And I think all of this is even more important with COVID, given the social restrictions, the unpredictability of these times. You should make the best of your application for a qualitative perspective, and you have to come with a business plan which is solid, that meets the necessary regulatory requirements to enter the European Union, basically. And that's what we do. We help businesses in that. We provide the guidance.
Beautiful, Meitia. And I know all of you are providing customized solution to your customers. And Dorian, you are the customer. And we'd like to hear from you. What's your expectation, or even what's your experience with our wonderful service providers?
Sure. We did work in the past and will work in the future with service providers like the ones here present today. Why do we go to them? Especially as a smaller shop, we cannot be knowledgeable in every of these jurisdictions with local regulatory requirements. Now you obviously, if you're a sizable company, you probably have an enough large legal department that can do a bit of it, but sort of in the SME sector, you probably don't have that luxury. So the service agencies are a fantastic way to connect straight into the local community, connect straight into the local setup that is required to become a good corporate citizen. They can connect you with the necessary governmental offices to set up shop, that can connect you with all the relevant elements that you need to set up, as an example, shop to be a good employer, what good employment traditions are locally. It's not that big a difference if you look in sort of the jurisdictions that are present here today, but then, you know, the fine print is different. And to have somebody that helps you and guides you in that process, effectively in our case, simply avoids us to fall into traps that we have done that all alone, we probably would have consumed on the way. So in a way, I look at sort of the service agency here present as accelerators. And in terms of speed to market, with the nice benefit of also being to some extent an insurance policy, that is to avoid those setup traps that can happen if you're not knowledgeable enough about the local setup. And that's how we look at the agencies, and that's why we do work regularly with these kind of service firms like present today.
Wonderful, Dorian. Now back to you, Doug, Anna, and Natia. After hearing what Dorian expects, review your past experience. What's been working well and what differently you can do, especially given the current pandemic situation? Anything you can improve and adapt for your service?
Yes, Mel. Certainly, there's a lot of ways to improve our service better, especially in the how we can maintain the same service level digitally when we can't meet our clients face to face. We are still investing a lot in these kind of innovations, and for my organization HATDC, we are also welcoming service providers suggest some good solutions to help us deliver our conference, our business matching service better and reach out to even more people. But one of the things that I think we have done really well, and I saw one of the questions from the audience is that like our suggestion whether they should make use of this pandemic to reach out to the overseas market, or they should wait and when everything normalizes. I think it really depends on like how well you know the market. If it is a completely new market to you, I would suggest to wait and see, but make use of the time right now to do better research, because a lot of organizations now are more willing and more acceptive to reaching their clients or partners digitally. So make use of these platforms and occasions like events, conferences, and also, for example, TDC, we have very good research. I would really highly recommend our research portal. Not only that you will know information related to Hong Kong and China. In fact, we have very in-depth report covering different markets, because our our clients are not just overseas companies, but also Hong Kong companies who need to expand overseas. So our research portal is a very good source of information to get to know different market before you make a decision to travel. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add on to that, that question. Here again, the company should keep its eye on the ball, and think beyond what's currently happening. And so I would just say that based on what we've seen over the years, that companies they should continue to leverage off of their domestic customer base for overseas opportunities. Follow those customers internationally, to maximize sales, and even to risk. You don't want to risk losing those customers by not following them abroad. Also, by working with those U.S. customers, you can help to minimize, any foreign contract disputes or risk of non-payment for services rendered. So, actually, we have a couple examples of companies that are like that. I mean, we were working recently with a company that provides a fintech platform for connecting asset managers and high net worth individuals with private market investments. So there's a growing interest, from international investors in these kinds of investments. And, the growth in these alternative investments is going to be growing by 25% in Asia, through 2025. So this company, they're continuing to go ahead with their plan to staff up and build an office in Hong Kong. We have another company where they set up because, they have a solution. Here again, it's a front to back end investment management solution to focus on hedge funds. And here again, the amount of hedge funds in Hong Kong, just Hong Kong alone, it's higher than Singapore, Japan, and Australia combined together. So here again, the company is looking at that market opportunity and going ahead with their plans. And also to maybe help to help you along in that process, take a look at local partners. They can give you feet on the ground and local expertise, right away. They can provide you with a network of local contacts. I will say that be careful about who you partner with, but you can find a good partner. Maybe it's someone that you worked with before, or maybe even a customer. So we have seen also fintech companies that have been drawn into our market because their shareholders come from Hong Kong. So that's also another source of comfort in moving ahead, even with all this pandemic going on. And we have a great example of that in the case of SoFi, coming out of San Francisco. So they actually came together with it's a company in Hong Kong, which was Asia's first mobile-only investing service, robo-advisor, and zero commission brokerage. And so they combined with their firm. And so immediately that gave them feet on the ground and a pretty, substantive presence. So, these are some of the things that, you can continue to go forward with, even with the pandemic going on. Just keep your eye on on your longer range plan.
Thank you, Doug and Anna, for your dedication for customer excellence, just like our fintech companies. And since Anna already touched upon a question, I'm going to give Matthew a choice. You can either build on the previous question asked, or there's a question from the audience I think you have privilege to answer, which is, what's your relationship with financial regulators to ease the entry into your market?
Yes, I will. Well, when it comes to relationship with the financial regulator, well, the financial regulator is independent, and you have first of all you have to think about the fact that in Europe, so when it comes to European licenses in payments or bank license, well, we are talking about European regulation. Then when you go to the regulator of any European member state, once you get the license, you can access the European market. In our case, in Luxembourg, as in any other European member states, there's no privileged route, basically, because LFF as such is the development and promotional agency, but we are not the regulator itself, right? Because the regulator in Luxembourg is the SSF, which is, by the way, a multilingual regulator, which has extensive and profound experience in cross-border financial services and payments. And they also have an innovation department. They give the possibility to have informal meetings with applicants before actually applying, to understand the business, the complexity of the business. It's a regulator who speaks the language of the payment industry, so that is really important. But there is no privileged route. Obviously, we can support payments, supporting, for instance, in having informal meetings with regulator, but we as such have no decision power in any way, because obviously they're independent. We two different entities doing different a different type of job, which is kind of different from other jurisdictions outside of Europe, where sometimes the promotional and development body is also the regulator, and that sometimes is also very helpful because it splits up the process. There's no doubt. Now, coming to let's say the success, well, Luxembourg, the thing about Luxembourg and payments and fintech is that Luxembourg tends to attract big players who are operating in business to business, the payment services, or in the e-commerce space. If we look at US global e-commerce payment firms, Amazon Payments, PayPal, Airbnb, all choose Luxembourg to transport their payment services across EU. And this is certainly a success story for us. We have also the Chinese giants, Alipay, Pingpong, the Japanese Rakuten, and many other European great players in the payment ecosystem. Now, they're not coming to Luxembourg because of the domestic market. Obviously, they join Luxembourg because they want to tap the European single market with its 450 customers via a well-established and well-regulated system. So if you talk about, for instance, if you want to look at it from another perspective, it has happened, and sometimes the small payment firms arrived, for instance, to Luxembourg, and they were unprepared because they couldn't start their operation right away after getting a license. And that is also an aspect that you have to take into account, because, for instance, in Luxembourg, there's also a law that if you are not operative within a year from your inception, you can also lose the license eventually. And this happens mostly in case of companies which are rather small. They don't have, obviously, they don't have sometimes the financial strengths, or sometimes they just come unprepared. So if there is something that you should look out for, is really to come prepared with a business plan which is solid, and then you meet with the regulator. And that's one thing that it's important, and I would suggest.
Yeah, thank you, Mattia, for the sincere advice. Just because of these challenges, we need you to help us navigate. And since we're having just 1 minute left, I would like to turn to other panelists to give your one piece of advice to our audience, just like what Mattia did.
I can start. My one piece of advice is go outside your home turf and make use of that post-pandemic recovery and opportunity. So simply do it.
Yeah, and then I would just say that be prepared to look beyond the short term. Here again, I've said, don't take your eye off the ball. And if you have the bandwidth and you are interested in doing international expansion, be prepared to make a commitment. It's not something that you go in and out with.
Well, my quick advice to you,
same as I said before, come well prepared, do your homework, and that's it. We're happy to support and to access Europe, basically.
Yeah. And thank you, Adrian, for your comment. This is indeed an excellent panel with great insights. Give our experts a big applause. And I know there are a lot of questions we don't have time to address. We will get back to you after session. And thank you for being with us. And thanks for all our experts here to share their insights with us.
You.
See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.